Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. This is Hunter here, and I am here with Scott. Scott, welcome back, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
Dude, it's so good to...
So good to be back. It's I what was the most recent one that we just did? What did we do together?
Dude, it's been a while. I mean, I don't... Has it been...
I feel like we brought the band back together just once recently.
kind of
But you
going...
might have lost the recording, or they might have not recorded. That
Oh, I
might
think
have happened.
I think it was... man. I think it was Doctor Strange, I believe what you wanted.
Yes,
Yeah.
good call. Good call.
Yeah. So we had the band back for that. So let me actually address that right out the gate here. So, guys, moving forward, Scott and Colin will still definitely be on reviews. They are going to be on more sporadically, a lot more for the bigger blockbusters, especially as we get closer to summer. So we're going to have several new reviewers joining the podcast here in the next month or so. And then we're also going to be launching a wrestling podcast with yours truly, my friend OJ and my friend Annie. So we're going to be launching that here in the next couple weeks. So, and then I'm going to be launching my own solo weekly podcast in the next couple weeks. So stay tuned for all of that. So we will have Scott and Colin still join us, but we will just have more reviewers on as well. So we appreciate your guys' continued support. We're around 200 plays actually for the last week and a half, so I appreciate that, guys. So thank you for continuing to listen and support us. So this is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and considering who our president will be in a few days, maybe the last one. So so I figured it was very apropos for us to review what and Scott, you watched The Wire, right?
I did.
I think this is the blackest show since The Wire. This
That's quite a statement there.
dude, I think it is, man, because this show, holy crap, like this show is unapologetically black, and I mean that in the best way. What we are talking about is Luke Cage, which me and Scott have argued about off mic. Scott is wrong, but we've talked about the show, and I personally think it is the best thing that Marvel has done with their Netflix street level universe. Scott disagrees.
Boo.
We will we will very very mature. We will make our cases for why we think that is. So let's just kind of let me kind of set the tone here. So Luke Cage is
He's black.
and bald, yeah.
So let's just start that off.
Yeah, Luke Cage is black.
If you're not a fan of black people or generally like blackness in general, you probably won't like this show. So
No.
I just want to let everybody know.
No, you could not be more right, like more correct. Like Luke, this is like the blackest. Like this show is so, like I said, unapologetically black. So okay. So Luke Cage came out.
Just describe what you mean by that.
So the thing about Luke Cage is that even when he premiered, and Luke Cage has been around since 72 summer, I believe, too. Wow, yeah, June 1972. God, I'm sad. But his first appearance was in Luke Cage Hero for Hire #1, and so this was during the blaxploitation era. So I mean, he was pretty much Shaft with superpowers, if you want to boil it down to.
Now, you personally, have you followed Luke Cage before the show?
I have, yeah. Just because, again, he was the first black superhero, and I was like, okay, just on principle, I'm gonna follow you. But he was, he's always been kind of one of those B, if not C level, heroes where it just felt like they could never fucking sustain just a run with him for whatever reason. What ended up happening is that they had another character like that with Iron Fist, who's getting his own Netflix show in March, yay! But they ended up becoming best friends and forming Heroes for Hire, which is when they both really kind of rose up the ranks as far as Marvel comic book readers. So if you want to talk about people who really benefited from being joined together, there are very few examples better than Luke Cage and Iron Fist, because they're like they have a beautiful bromance, not as beautiful as R. Scott, but a beautiful bromance nonetheless. And I'm very excited just on that alone to see how they kind of take the show as far as their bromance. But so Mike Coulter, who plays Luke Cage, this dude came from nowhere, to be totally honest. Like, I was really kind of going through trying to see, like, what do I know you from? I was like, nothing really, actually. And what's funny is that he's been on, I recognized him a little bit from that show, The Following, that Kevin Bacon show, because I knew he looked familiar, and I just could not remember who he played on there. He played this guy named Nick Donovan. For some reason I remembered him, but he was on The Good Wife for like 5 seasons, and it just made me laugh that this guy who has such a superhero look has just been wasting away on the goddamn Good Wife. But so let's kind of start there. Mike Coulter, going into this, Scott, what were you kind of like thinking as far as the show is concerned?
So the only other Netflix TV show that I had seen was Daredevil.
Woo!
And so I would say the bar was set pretty high. I really enjoyed Daredevil, and that's kind of something that we tend to argue about. I actually think it's better than this show, but we'll get there in due time. So expectation wise, very very little, and like this is probably it's part of the reason why I love like film and shows, TV shows so much, is because especially specifically Marvel shows and superhero shows, DC alike, is that I have limited knowledge of the background of these people and the stories. So I feel like I can really have virgin eyes as to see what is is going on, and really kind of soak it all in for the first time. So I knew of his super strength, but that was pretty much it. So going into it, that was all I had really. I hadn't seen Jessica Jones, and did that come out after this?
No.
Or was that the same time? Similar time frame?
So it went it went Daredevil season 2,
2015.
Yeah, and then Jessica Jones, and then Luke Cage after this. So
right. So I had just recently seen Jessica Jones, and then just recently, and I saw Luke Cage when it came out. But as far as expectations, yeah, just none at all, really. Compared, with Daredevil, I know Netflix does an excellent job with their shows, and I know Marvel kills it. So I knew if there was enough fighting and, like some good action, going into these shows, the villain is really hit or miss on a lot of these, and that's kind of where my expectation of superhero films and shows in general.
Okay, dude, that's fair, man. I know for me, so this is gonna, because this show deals very unapologetically with race, so I'm gonna bring something race related up. So the thing is, like, if you screw up, a Batman movie, a Superman movie, they'll reboot it because it's Batman or Superman. If they fuck up something like a Jessica Jones or a Luke Cage or something like that for like a minor character, let alone a minority character, whether it's a woman or someone of color or both, that shit goes in the can for like 15 years. I mean, the last black superhero movie we got was Blade Trinity. I mean, think about that, and that was 2004, I believe. If my Yeah, Blade Trinity. Yeah, when did Blade Trinity? I want to say 2000. Let's say 2004. Yeah, 2004. So it's been 12 years since we've had. I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of crazy when you think about it. I mean, so which is one reason why I tell people watch Supergirl. It's gotten better, by the way. When stuff like that comes out. So I was really worried about this. I'm like, oh god, they're gonna fuck this up, and I'm gonna be really sad. And thankfully, they didn't fuck it up. Now, where you fall on where if it's better than Daredevil or not, it is. Then, it's your prerogative. But let's just kind of jump in here. So I mean, really, it's a simple premise. Luke Cage, imprisoned at Seagate Prison for a crime he didn't commit, ends up getting experimented on in a really ugly episode, by the way. I think that's episode 5 or 6, I believe, and which kind of shows his origins, and it is not pretty, and I mean that very complimentary. It's episode 4, pardon me, where they just show him getting experimented on and showing what can happen with inmates. And this show makes a lot of, and I'm curious what you thought of this. Did you feel like the show was ever preachy to you at a point?
I would say yes, but that's, I feel like, kind of a characteristic of superheroes. They sort of have the writers feel the need to give these people of, fantastic abilities a reason or like some sort of moral compass of which they're carrying out justice, right? Like they have to have, if it's a superhero, it's someone for good, right? So it's not a villain, so they must have some sort of thing that they believe in to keep them on the straight and narrow, or to give them whatever cause to be a good guy. So I kind of just expect that a little bit in superhero movies and shows. But I guess, yeah, you could say that, yeah. It did surprise me, but I would tend to agree with that.
Okay, so I will say for me, God, you're so racist, Scott. I swear, no, I'm kidding. But I think for me, what's cool about the show is that you can like this show and appreciate it on a very just superficial level, just because it's shot beautifully. Like they shot in Harlem, and it really,
oh yeah, for sure. It's like Netflix nails that, and Marvel, both Netflix and Marvel, just they kill cinematography. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like they really know what they're doing, but it's shot so well. It looks beautiful yet gritty because it's Harlem, and you can appreciate just on the superficial level of a man, just going against, I guess what you consider the establishment of Harlem. You can appreciate it, at face value in that sense. But I really think that you would be definitely cheapening your experience if you don't see the things it says about black homes, about being a black person in this country, the status quo, what defines your blackness, the relationship we have with the police, relationship we have with each other, how important having a good home life is, which is something in the black community that really needs to be talked about. There's so much that you can dissect and pick and pull from the show. If you want to delve that deep, you don't have to, but God, I really think you should. So, I mean, I'm just going to break down Mike Coulter's Luke Cage real quick. He's amazing. He's very subtle with his performance when he needs to be, but when he speaks, it feels like he's speaking volumes, and every word means something. I'll tell you the moment for me, Scott, where the show had me. It was the end of episode 2 when, by the way, full spoilers in case it wasn't obvious. I just feel like I need to put that out there, but where Pops gets killed in a really fucked up way, by the way, who runs Pop's barbershop. I love the love the reference where that kid puts the gun up to his head at the end of episode 2. and he brings up Crispus Attucks, which, if you don't know who that is, Google, kids. But when he says, I'm not running no more. I'm not running anymore. And he says, do it. And he goes, pull the trigger, nigga. I ain't got all night. I was like, Jesus Christ. Okay, that scared me at home. I was like, and they even cut back to the guy holding the gun, and he's like, oh shit, and he starts shaking and shit. And that moment, I was like, this is just. And then he shoots himself. He's like, fine, I'll do it myself. And if you've read Luke Cage, he has unbreakable skin, and so he shoots himself, and the bullet just bounces off, and this brother just goes running, as you would, and that leads to episode 3, where Bring the Ruckus is playing. And one thing about Netflix, man, they love their hallway fight scenes. They love those so much, like it's like they can't help themselves. But this one, where Luke Cage decked out in a hoodie. No Trayvon Martin reference at all there. And he just breaks into Cottonmouth's, one of his stash houses with cash, and he just starts beating people down. Oh, Scott, that's when I just went, oh, this show's wonderful.
and that's what you like hope for in superhero movies is like people, directors and creators and producers like to tiptoe around the superhero part, like their superpowers, like, oh, you don't want to, like, it's going to be too much. It has to be a fair fight, right? There's got to be some sort of a fair fight. Well, it's like, when everybody's watching going, in reality, if you have these superpowers, you would just do whatever you wanted. You would kick the door down and just annihilate anybody in your path. And that's what I really liked about that, is they just allowed the character to be just like to go all out and to realize their own powers, and it was more realistic than a lot of the times they have. It's kind of forced, just to make it a fair fight, to feel like they can't just annihilate anybody that they want to. They have to put some sort of character or someone else with a superpower in there just to make it fair. But I like how in that instance he just like, you know what, he's just gonna fuck everybody up.
Yeah, and I will use this comparison for you when it comes to us kind of debating this versus Daredevil. The way I kind of put this, Daredevil is like Kobe to me. Like, Kobe had all the finesse, he was flashy, he had so much skill, was able to take you off the dribble and all that. You're welcome for the Lakers metaphor, by the way.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Shaq is Luke Cage, where he's just a powerhouse, he's just a big dude, just power, not fancy. And the fight scenes in this, like, I was laughing at all of them except for the very last one, and not because like they were funny, but just because he is just so, like, he's just throwing people through walls and windows and shit. And when you see him getting shot at until a certain point, when you see people just shooting him with regular bullets, he just kind of looks at him like, God damn it, like, you're ruining my clothes, and now I'm angry. And it's wonderful. By the way, that scene in episode 3 where Blake play the Ruckus, or Bring the Ruckus, pardon me, by Wu-Tang Clan, fucking great song, by the way. It ends with a really violent, that violent hallway scene, and then it ends with Cottonmouth shooting him with a rocket launcher. I was like, Jesus Christ, this is the best shot ever. Just like 2 just incredibly insane bookends for one episode. But yeah, Mike Coulter's absolutely incredible in this. I do want to move on to someone we were talking about off mic, and that's oh my gosh, I want to make sure I get his name right. I feel like I'm going to butcher it. Sir, I'm sorry. I love you. Mahershala Ali. Oh, I think I got it. Who plays Cornell Cottonmouth Stokes. And he, if you haven't seen it, he was just in Moonlight. And Scott, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know if he'll get nominated for like a Best Supporting or anything, but even a nomination, because he was incredible in this until he unfortunately got
he's arguably one of the better. I would argue he's one of the put on some of the best performances within the last 4 or 5 years or so, just based on House of Cards and Luke Cage and what else am I missing here? The one he was just Moonlight, yeah. Right? It's just like, everything that I've seen him in, he just kills. And yeah, he was probably one of my highlights of this entire. Besides Luke Cage, he was probably the highlight of the show for me.
Yeah, I thought he was incredible. I mean, he was sympathetic. Like, I don't know what Marvel's how they're able to do this, but the Netflix, like, look, I love the movies, and it's everyone's favorite time for Hunter, suck that Marvel dick. Like, I love the Marvel movies, but if there is a critique that does hold water that you can have, it's that the villains don't always hit. Netflix, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's because they have more time to flesh them out or what it is, but they have been able to just nail the villains from Kilgrave to Kingpin to Cottonmouth. These villains all just...
I would argue Kilgrave on that one. That's the only one that I'm not
really
super stoked on. Yeah, we'll do another pod for Jessica Jones. But,
interesting. Okay,
that's for a different day.
But Cottonmouth, he comes across as sympathetic at points. I loved what he was saying about because there's this point where after Luke Cage, hits one of his stash houses, he's like, look, his accountant is basically saying, like, dude, just kind of cut your losses and move on. He says, very few people are ever able to be, black people ever be wealthy, like, I want that. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what he's saying, and it brings up that social economic difference of, being rich versus being wealthy. And it took me back to, I don't know if you remember, but one of my favorite Denzel movies is American Gangster, and he has that scene where he's talking to his brothers and cousins when he brings them in from North Carolina, and they're walking down the street, and he goes, I can't think of it, I can't remember what his old mentor's name was, but he's like, he wasn't rich, he wasn't white man rich, and this show deals with that concept, and it's a very true notion. And Cottonmouth, he's vicious, he's charming. He wears the hell of a suit. I know it's totally random, but like whenever you see him, he looks clean. That club always is bounced.
He is a dapper lad. I will say
he
that.
really is. And one thing that they do a great job of too is having musical numbers, like, to kind of break up, I would say kind of break up the monotony a little bit, just so that you get to see these, like, really cool artists. One of the coolest songs on the soundtrack is, watching the whole freaking show, is Long Live the Chief, and I freaking love that song. And we get reintroduced to Claire Temple, played by Rosario Dawson, who I love her. She was fantastic here, just real quick, as Claire Temple. She's kind of the Agent Coulson, if you will, from the the first 4 or 5 Marvel movies, tying the Avengers together. She's tying the Defenders together. She's been in every single one of these shows, and gets probably her biggest role here. I would think her role's a little bigger here than it was in Daredevil, and I really enjoyed her here. She felt she didn't feel forced into the universe. It felt very natural. Her and Mike Coulter have really good chemistry. If I was working for Rosario Dawson, I'd make it work too. But she's incredibly charming. She's a badass too. I mean, for not having any power, she knows what she's doing, and I just adore her. And then the last 2 people I'm going to talk about really quickly here. One of them is my MVP. So the Alfre Woodard, who played Mariah Dillard, who's the mayor, I believe, of Harlem. Yeah, she's the mayor of Harlem. I'm gonna tell you right now, what a cunt. Oh my god, I wanted to slap this woman so badly. She's so terrible, but goddamn, she's such a good villain. She's the sister of Cottonmouth, and oh, Scott, especially where she ends up with the show. And I know we said no spoilers, but I just don't want to give this away. She is a lot more dangerous than she lets on at first, And one of my just legitimate gripes with people in general is if you're an asshole and you're critiquing other people for being an asshole, that you're a hypocrite. I fucking hate that. And Mariah is very much the whole series really kind of telling Cottonmouth like, oh, you're better than this, da da da. She's as much of a douchebag as he is, but he's just more honest about it. But by the end, you really discover just how much of a bitch she is and how pretty fucking evil she actually is. And
that's really what is great about the show, though. Is like the so many different sides of it. Like you're saying, like it's the blackness of this show, but it's like you got she is running the city. You know, she has the city aspect where she's trying to get money for the kids or whatever, and you think that it's like a noble cause, but then you realize how she's getting the money and how she's wrapped up in it, and how she's just as bad as Cottonmouth is. And then you have Willis Stryker, who scares the hell out of me. Like, he's just one of those just crazy dudes that'll do whatever it takes. I think that's what's so great about this show is like they cover so many bases that no one is really safe from the reaches of crime and you know what it takes to how much money is important to getting things done that you need to get done, whether it takes, you know, being a criminal or whether it's noble causes, you know what I mean? It's just that's what I think is great about the show is just so many different viewpoints and avenues.
And I apologize. It's she's Cottonmouth's cousin. That's right. I totally forgot. Yeah, it's her cousin. I apologize.
And they get a little bit like weird romantic there, like for a second.
Okay. So we kind of address that. So we address that Cottonmouth like dies already. First off, one of the most vicious deaths I've seen in a TV show in a while. I was like, oh my god. It took me back to when Kingpin ends up choking out Ben the reporter, and I was like, god damn it. And I was just so sad. I was like, no. But here, she beats Cottonmouth to death with a mic stand. I was like, Christ Almighty! And it is vicious. Like, they don't show it like entirely, but it gets the point across. You definitely see how intense it is, and that's where she kind of, you know, she really does kind of step up to be the new Cottonmouth, as it were. I will say that is probably my biggest complaint about the show, is that, you know, and they actually had Mike Coulter on First Take, and Stephen A. Smith brought this up, and he was like, dude, how do you kill Cottonmouth off? And I kind of went, how's he going to explain this? And Mike Coulter, bless his heart, he just kind of owned up. He's like, look, hindsight's 20/20, and Mahershala Ali did such a great job with the role that, yeah, killing him, it looks like a very, like, why did we do that, you know, moment now. And yeah, it kind of makes you go like, oh, well, okay, you kind of at least, you know, acknowledge it. But I think that might be where some people kind of hold a bit of a grudge, is that Mahershala Ali is taken from us because he's so good with the character. What ends up leading to him getting killed is that Cottonmouth brings up the fact that their Uncle Pete was sexually abusing Mariah, which she, like, allowed him to do. Now, I'm going to choose my words very carefully here, Scott, because you know me, I just run off the mouth. But while what Uncle Pete was doing was clearly wrong, the show definitely alludes to the fact that she was letting it happen, so maybe she liked the attention, which is probably what led to Cottonmouth getting killed, because he opened his mouth. And so
it seemed like just like a messed up family to me.
No.
The entire season, like, she probably didn't have a choice. You know, you'd rather not be the one with the attention on you. You know.
Yeah, I mean, she.
But yeah, she's not innocent. You know what I mean? Like, she's a product of her environment, but she's definitely not innocent.
That's probably the most uncomfortable I felt watching the show, because I went like, oh, that is a really real like scenario. Like that's not far fetched like at all. But I think the reason why it kind of made me go like maybe he was right is because when she's killing him, she is screaming at him like I didn't want it, I didn't want it. I was like maybe you did if it got you this upset, but it's a crazy intense scene. It's so good. So before we kind of wrap this up, I mean, I will just say there are a couple moments for me that really stood out. It was really cool when Luke Cage, when he escapes Seagate and he needs to get some clothes, he kind of just walks in this person's yard and grabs the first things he can find. And it's literally his original costume, straight out of the comics, and he goes, like, I look like a damn fool, and I was like, you do. I'm like, it's very true. Your original costume was terrible. I love that scene. I love the scene in the, I believe it's a Chinese restaurant, where, you know, he's just very calm. He's like, look, you guys are being disrespectful. Just leave these people alone. And this guy punches him, breaks his hand in just the most awesome way. And just to show how powerful he is, he throws him out of the window backwards, which is maybe one of the hardest laughs I've gotten all year. It's just like so nonchalant, like, oh, I'm powerful enough, I can do this. I love that scene. The speech that Luke gives at Pop's funeral made me legitimately tear up a little bit. I thought it was so well done, and it shows kind of the big ol' black dick measuring contest between him and Cottonmouth. It's so well done, and between that and just hearing Luke Cage say "Sweet Christmas," which is his catchphrase, it really just made me horribly happy. The amount of Easter eggs they put in here. And before I kind of throw it back to you, man, can we talk about the music in this show? Like how goddamn good the music is. Everything from A Tribe Called Quest to Nas to Isaac Hayes to ODB to Wu-Tang Clan to Gangstar to an appearance by fucking Method Man, which made me so genuinely happy. I couldn't put it into words. Before I throw it back to you, I'm just gonna say the reason I like this more in Daredevil, I think it used all of its resources from its smaller guests, its supporting characters, to its main actors, to the settings, to the music, to the fact that Harlem feels like its own character itself, which is a really hard thing to pull off, because I've never really felt like, I mean, Hell's Kitchen feels like its own character, but never in a way that Harlem felt like its own character watching this. So, and then I so much of this is so well done, from the fight choreography to the relationships, and I would be remiss if I did not bring up, I believe I think I brought up Simone. I didn't bring up Simone Missick, who plays Misty Knight, who, Scott, you know how I feel about black women. They don't normally do it for me. This woman is not only gorgeous, but she is, as cliche as she's sassy, but she's actually a good detective, which I thought was actually really important for them to show, that she wasn't just eye candy. I mean, you know, her and Luke, I think they bone episode 1. I think it's episode 1 they have sex, and
Luke Cage is a straight Casanova. Like,
right?
This dude just, like, he gets down.
Yeah, he totally gets down. I mean, there's this one black chick in there who is so thirsty, she's not even trying to hide it. She has a kid, and she's like, oh, hey, like, I actually, Scott, you'll appreciate this since you've watched the show. I actually have a shirt that has Luke Cage on it. It's got his arms folded and it says, let's go get coffee. And and in case you didn't know, if you haven't watched the show, coffee is code for sex. But
well, even in like Jessica Jones, like when she's like scouting this guy, she's following this guy doing investigation work, and she comes across Luke Cage, it's because he's just just plowing like many women at his bar. Like he's like just taking girls home every night.
Yeah,
when you got it, you got it. You know,
like a black Johnny Appleseed, just laying the dirt,
planting that seed.
There you go.
Like a plumber just laying the pipe. You know?
Well done. But Simone, she's amazing in here. She has a breakdown like later on in the season, and when she's going after Cottonmouth and Maria, she's laser focused, and it kind of does that this Batman Telltale thing where it kind of reenacts the crime scenes, and she's kind of doing it in her head. And it's actually a really cool like effect. It's kind of Max Payne-ish a little bit too. But it's really well done. It really kind of shows you how she thinks. So that was really well done. Overall, for me, like I said, I have a couple complaints. I think episode 9, which is where he actually gets shot and the bullet penetrates. That's just kind of that episode is just kind of a waiting game, unfortunately. So I can see how some people kind of like, episode 9 wasn't needed, but they did science the shit out of it, so I mean, kudos to them for having a reason. But overall, though, man, those minor gripes aside, I really enjoyed this. I mean, I don't know if I think I like this better than Daredevil season 1. I don't know about season 2, just because season 2 had the Punisher, and Punisher is bae, as the kids would say. Oh, rhyme. See that? Wick a wick. But anyway, but for me though, this is fan-fucking-tastic for me. I enjoyed the show so much. Besides Atlanta and probably Westworld, which I'm still working through, but it's probably tied for my favorite show of the year. Atlanta's wonderful if you haven't watched it. Shout out to Donald Glover. Congratulations on your Golden Globes. But yeah, this show was incredibly well done. They already announced season 2, which we'll probably have to wait 2 years for. Sadness. But this was incredibly well done. Black people really need a show like this, and it's drenched in hip hop, which is another reason why I love it so much. So yeah, so fan-fucking-tastic for me. All right, Buzzkill. What do you have to say about it?
There's a few things.
Oh, here we go. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Well, when the show starts off, my first thought was, okay, he's bulletproof and he has like super strength, like that. It's like the Superman conundrum almost of how can he be beat and why can't he just destroy everything in his path? But there are, as the show goes on, you learn more about it, and not about his powers necessarily, about him. And I don't know. I feel like I want a superhero. I know these superheroes were created many years ago, and you can't just change them. But I mean, I feel like we can get past super strength and like bulletproof. I just want like a creative superpower. I want some sort of like, I don't know, something unique, something that it just doesn't. It's not unique to me anymore. I feel like it's overplayed, and it can ruin a lot of like. I didn't ever think he was gonna lose a fight, and even when he was in that fight with Diamondback. No, it wasn't Diamondback. It was the other guy. What's his name? No, I'm sorry. No, Diamondback. It was Diamondback. And even in that kind of a climax fight scene, it was hard for me to believe that even with what Diamondback had working for him, that I feel like he should have still just annihilated him. And because has this bulletproof skin, he should have just killed him. And that's it wasn't a major thing. It wasn't like it was just one of those things that I have a feeling about for most superhero movies is I wish for more creativity in that category when it comes to their superpower. And that's kind of leads me to the fight scene aspect, and I feel like this is where Daredevil is far and above better, is I think I didn't love the fight scenes, and I wish that there were more in Luke Cage, and that's what I loved about Daredevil. Daredevil is like it didn't start out that way, but the fight scenes were like so perfectly choreographed, and like I think it helps that he's essentially a ninja.
Yeah, he is.
And being a ninja is pretty badass. I love a good ninja. But I think as far as fight scenes go, I would say that's what I really enjoyed more about Daredevil. But as far as a representation of what they're trying to portray in this show through, like, yeah, kind of, him in the hoodie, just like kind of keeping his head down, doesn't want to cause a lot of, doesn't want to stir up a lot of trouble, doesn't want to get the police involved. That really, like, you can really feel the tension with the police that the black community had during that time, and kind of what Harlem was like, and how them trying to come out of that and try to, whether it's through administration, like the mayor, let's see, what was her name? Mariah. I like the multiple layers that went on in this show, and that's what I really loved about it. Is it wasn't a lot of these superhero movies and shows, can be just very like status quo, base level, not too deep. But that's what I really liked about this one. Great actors. Alfred Woodard is an excellent actress. I didn't love Shades.
Really? I was going to ask you.
Theo Rossi. I feel like I don't know. He was like almost too cool. Like he was too cool for school, and like he just didn't like. He was like I don't know. I think he overplayed it personally. He just kind of bugged me a little bit. I don't know why. One thing I noticed about this show was like we were halfway through it. I was watching it with my fiance, and we were probably like 3/4 of the way through it, and I was like, I was like, this is like a all black cast. Aside from Theo Rossi, like it was one of those things where a lot of times it's more promoted, like in certain shows, like Meet the Blacks, you know what I mean, or like things that like it's made aware that this is an all black cast and this is kind of what we're aiming for. But this show is just like it is what it was, and it was like. It was accurate almost. Like it was they weren't trying to force anything. I don't know. It was just they selected the cast so well that I'm not trying to say that you can tell that there's like a difference between a white actor and a black actor or actress, but it's like they didn't try to shove it down your throat necessarily. And I feel like I can notice that as a viewer. But yeah, overall, I think I would probably give this show an A-. But I'm really excited about the next season. I'm gonna be probably watching it when it comes on opening night or opening day, whenever it comes out. Actresses and actors alike were excellent. Like you said, the soundtrack just ties it all together for sure. And I was bummed that they took out Cottonmouth, because the dude is legit, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, but he kills it, and he's just the most suave dude ever. So yeah, I would say A-. Like I said, there's a couple things that like I probably could have gone better, but I really enjoyed it. I think Mike Coulter is an excellent actor, and like he's definitely the dude that should be playing Luke Cage. And I was watching Jessica Jones, and they end up in this grow house with just a bunch of marijuana plants, and he's just like looking around, and I had kind of forgotten about his catchphrase until he's like looking around and oh, sweet Christmas. And it's just like this was just weed everywhere. Like, Luke Cage is the best. But yeah, it's a great show. I definitely recommend it.
A-. I should be ashamed of yourself. Honestly, from you though, like, and I mean this respectfully, because you're probably the hardest grader out of the three of us. An A- is pretty high praise. So
it's good. That's good. Yeah.
That actually is good. And some of your complaints I do understand. I mean, I would fight you on the fight scenes thing just because I everyone can't be Daredevil. I mean, I think
Right, exactly. No, I get that. He's like a friggin' ninja. Like it's hard to top that.
yeah, but I mean now I would take that criticism and apply it to Jessica Jones because I thought the fight scenes in that were just pretty average at best. So, but
True, but I think Jessica Jones is probably my least favorite of the three of those three shows.
yeah, I'm right there with you. I do agree with you on that. But that again, that is never review for never day.
Another day.
But guys, have you seen Luke Cage yet? If you haven't, at least watch the first episode. I was hooked after episode 2. I'm like, all right, I'm with this.
You really only need a couple episodes to get, maybe 2 to get hooked on. You know?
And I will say where the show ends, it definitely sets up for Defenders, which we're getting this year. Now,
is that coming out as a movie or a show?
That's a show. So that's going to be, I believe that's 8 episodes only, which is, I think will actually be better, but that's the team up with Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist, which we're getting in March. And the Punisher's first season show comes out before Defenders, so the rumor is we may get Punisher too, which would make me happy. And so
let me ask you something really quickly. Sorry to interrupt. No, do you prefer the shows over the movies? Like, would you prefer a Luke Cage movie, or would you prefer a Punisher movie, or do you like the way that that Marvel is going with Netflix?
Netflix, because I don't know if you saw any of the Punisher movies, they were not awesome. So I think certain characters need to be TV shows because they could.
They're well, I mean, like the way the comic books are, they're essentially episodes, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
Each comic is its own episode, its own volume. So if you can really, I feel like you can really describe and go in depth with a character, like way better in a show.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that especially some of these, I think these lesser known heroes need to be Netflix shows. I think how they're doing it, they need to stick with that because.
Like I would say, I would like to see Ant-Man as a show.
I would watch an Ant-Man show, actually. I would be, and him and Jessica Jones actually have a past together in the comics. So,
I bet they bone.
They did. God, you're so mean. Slut, nice.
Jessica Jones and Luke Cage bang so much in that show. It's great.
Why do you think I love the show so much? It's pretty much what I want. No, it was actually funny. Colin off mic was saying, "Oh yeah, a damaged girl who bangs a black guy to feel better about herself. Isn't that like most of your relationships?" I was like, "Fuck you." And then I was like, "He's kind of right, goddamn." But I digress. But Colin, you bastard, I love you. But guys, have you seen Luke Cage yet? If you haven't, you should. I've been yelling at my mom to watch it because she hasn't watched it yet. Damn it! But guys, let us know what you thought of Luke Cage in the comments below. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter at JHunterRealPineapple. You can follow Mr. Colin O'Neill. We miss you, buddy, at The Real O'Neill. And you can follow Mr. Scott Neerman on Twitter at
Newman the First.
And guys, thank you so much. I will have a review up this weekend for Monster Trucks, God help me. And I think I'm gonna go see Live by Night too, that new Ben Affleck movie, which bombed this weekend. Didn't even crack the top 10, so that's funny. But but I think I might go take that in too. That's what she said. And Scott, we will have Scott back here in a couple of weeks for our worst of list, and we will have him.
Heyo.
And we'll have him back for 50 Shades Darker. Woohoo!
Heyo.
Which I know he's looking forward to.
Is it bad that I get more excited for the bad shows than the good shows?
No, I totally understand. Because those are more fun to review. Because
they are more fun.
Because the good ones is like, all right, we just have to talk about how good this is. Like the bad
blah 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 boring.
Yeah, but the bad movies and the bad shows, it's like, oh, let's talk about how much of God. If we reviewed Two Broke Girls, the internet would probably.
Oh gosh, good thing.
God, that is an atrocious show. But
you know what I just saw was Now You See Me Too. I haven't even seen the first
it's
one.
Really
and I
bad.
saw Now You See Me Too.
It's really bad. It's really bad. I watched it like a month ago. It's terrible.
Yeah, I haven't even seen the first one, and I watched the second one, and I was like, boy, I'm glad I didn't see the first one. Because if this one is this bad, I could not even like. Okay, we can't. You can't. I'll start a rant here. We gotta end this one because that is so bad.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. We will talk to you soon.
Peace.